Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wa mursaleen. Nabiyyina wa qudwatina Muhammad alayhi afdalus salah wa azka taslim. Allahumma alimna bima yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima alamtana wa zidna ilman. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Excellent. So, we are making excellent progress. Let's see. We had some homework, I believe. We began by talking about the genitive case. Basically, using prepositions. Okay. Way back in the beginning, we were learning how to make basic sentences that communicated ideas of identity. This is a desk. The student is hardworking, tall, these sorts of things. Then we shifted over. Now we're talking about something a little bit more complicated. We're talking about relationships between things. Okay, those relationships could be because of their relative location. Something is on top of something else. Something is underneath something else, and so on and so forth. They could be because of time. We haven't gotten there yet, but we'll get there. Something happens after something else or before. And eventually, I think actually the very next lesson after this one, we're going to talk about possession, right? Not just talking about a noun, this thing is this. Now we're going to talk about, okay, this thing belongs to such and such a person. It's the student's pen, or it's the masjid's pen or book or whatever have you. So to do all of that work, to talk about these relationships, whether it's possession, whether it's location, whether it's time, we have to get into the genitive case. We have to get into the majroor. How we do it, we use prepositions. Prepositions like fi, like ala, which we learn. So we're taking vocab that we learned before, al-bayt, and now we're expressing an idea that's just a little bit more complicated that has to do with that noun that we learned, al-bayt, fil bayti, in the house. And that expands what we're able to talk about. We learned al-masjidu, and with that we could say this is a masjid and that's a masjid, and the masjid is far, the masjid is near. Al-masjidu qaribun, al-masjidu ba'idun, al-masjidu nadhifun is clean, al-masjidu wasikhun is dirty. And now we can say fil masjidi, in the masjid. So and so is in the masjid. This is happening in the masjid, right? So we're expanding what we can say by being able to use these prepositional phrases. Al-maktabu, the desk. Ala al-maktabi, on the desk. Now we can not just say that is a desk, or the desk is nice, the desk is big, the desk, al-maktabu kabirun. Now we can say what's on top of the desk. Al-qittu ala al-maktabi, the cat is on top of the desk. Al-kitabu ala al-maktabi, the book is on top of the desk. Al-qalamu ala al-maktabi, the pen is on top of the desk. And so now we're able to say a lot more. As-sariru, the same thing. As-sariru, the bed. We were at first just able to say hada sarirun, this is a bed. Or as-sariru nadhifun, the bed is clean, the bed is that, the bed is this. Now we can say ala sariri, on top of the bed. Huwa ala sariri, he is on top of the bed. Al-qittu ala sariri, the cat is on top of the bed, and so on and so forth. So that was the whole idea, to start talking about the relationship between objects, the relationship between nouns, people, places, and things. once we learned that concept, we talked about how to ask a question about it, just like we did before. Before we were able to say, هذا كتاب. This is a book. And we could ask a yes or no question about it. أهذا كتاب? Is this a book? Or an open-ended question, ما هذا? What is this? So now if we're talking about location, the relationship of things, or the relationship between things by location, we need a corresponding question word to ask that, to inquire about what is the relationship spatially. What is going on between the location? What is the relationship of these things in space? And the word for that is aina. Where? Aina Muhammadun. Where is Muhammad? Huwa fil ghurfati. We learned the subject pronouns, huwa and hiya. There's only two when it comes to, there's no third gender or it in Arabic. Huwa fil ghurfati. He is in the room. Aina yasirun. Huwa fil hammami. He is in the bathroom. And so on and so forth. So I believe where we left off, if I recall, no, we finished all this, didn't we? We were here at Talibu fil Jamiati, I believe. Okay, so we'll go down our list of classmates. Oh, very good. Why was Amina written differently than Muhammad and Yasser? We're going to answer that question today, inshallah. It is literally on the next page. Excellent. I'm glad you're thinking along those lines. So, someone from the Shahada family, could you read number 1 for us with correct endings?
الطالب في الجامعة.
Okay, that is good. The endings are all correct. Now what I want you to do, yes, al-jami'a is a university. Now, I'll annotate with the vocab. But what I want you to do, I want you to read that again and to run together the places that need to be run together. Okay, so I can say al-talibu. Okay, we know it's al-talibu. And then if I'm going to say these two words separately, it is fi al-jami'ati. Okay? But if I run them together, it has to be what? Fil jami'ati. Okay? So say that again and try to run everything together.
الطالب في الجامعة.
Right? Just with one. Good. So al-jami'a means university. And because we have alif lam, it means the university. So if you could translate that for us, what does that mean in English?
The student is in the university.
Very good. The student is in the university. Excellent. And notice how we said it has to be jami'ati instead of jami'atin because of the alif lam. Alif lam is like a seesaw with a tanween at the end. Either you have alif lam or you have tanween. We have alif lam right here, so there's no tanween. Excellent. Number 2, someone else from the Shahada family.
الرجل في المسجدون مسجدي.
Okay, translate that for us.
So Rajul, the man is in the masjid.
Very good. Okay. Al-rajulu, right?
Rajul.
Fil masjid. Very good. Yes, and 100% correct.
Do you mind me asking a question quickly?
I don't know.
Last class, you had mentioned that you would never say this in regular speak to someone. You said we're doing this to learn. So the extras, so that's to teach us the concepts of the letters not to memorize this word could never be another way. We're learning the roots, so we learn the language without memorizing just the word, because you would speak it obviously for the first 10 years of your life and you would know it. So the E, the oo, like the other day I mentioned to my mother and she looked at me like I was crazy. So I was like, so that's just something for learning purposes, but we've never actually speak to someone by adding those. Is that correct?
Correct. The way that we should say that the Arabic language is spoken, okay? It is not spoken, it is spoken without the ending marks. So you would say al-rajul fil masjid, al-rajul fil masjid, okay? But if you were to ask 99% of Arabs, وش المبتدأ وش الخبر وعلامة خبره ماذا? Oh, right. If you try to ask them, okay, what's the subject of the sentence? How do you know it's the subject of the sentence? All of these things, they have no idea, right? They don't even know, many of them, unless they had a, mashallah, good education. They don't know that there's a dhamma at the end of a rajulu, and it has to be because it's the mubtada, and the mubtada is marfu', and they don't know that fil masjidi jar wa majrur, and alamatu jarrihi al kasra dhahira ala akhirih, right? All of these things, because likely they never studied it. Why does it become important for our purposes? Okay, it becomes important for our purposes because we know that we recite the Quran differently than we speak Arabic, right? And so if we recite the Quran, you absolutely have to say these things unless it happens to be at the very last word that you're reciting, right? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. You say with qalqala. You don't say ahadun, even though that's what's written there, ahadun. But if you connect it, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ, right? It all has to be there. And the fact that it's there actually carries the meaning. The fact that Allah is ahadun, that carries meaning. This is the khabr. The khabr is marfu'. And we know that because it has a dhamma. This word is nakira. And so on and so forth. If we make mistakes with the grammar and with the small things in the Quran, it could change the meaning entirely, right? So for example, خَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ. If somebody says خَلَقَ اللَّهَ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ, you just said that the heavens and the earth created Allah, right? The difference between a fatha and a dhamma and a kasra. And so as people who are learning classical Arabic, we're learning all of these things and we're practicing them. We're going to say all of them as we go, because for the purposes of the Quran and the purposes of the hadith, the meaning is in the grammar, okay? When you're speaking on the street, you're speaking to your relatives, stuff like that, you understand the meaning through other ways, right? Way back, first, second lesson, we talked about synthetic languages and analytical languages, about how synthetical languages, they communicate meaning more from these kinds of markers that are on the word. Well, almost every Arabic dialect has shifted towards the analytic. They have different things in them that makes it possible to communicate the meaning just by the order of the words. So it makes it unnecessary to even say or use all of these signs, right? This happens a lot. So when it comes to speech, that's one thing, speaking with native Arab speakers. But when we're going to the Quran and we're going to the Hadith, that's a different thing. If we want to understand clearly what is intended, we want to be able to make tafsir of the Quran or understand what exactly Allah is trying to say to us, the meaning is going to be held in these signs. And so that's why we practice them. Does that answer the question?
It does. And it actually brings up another point that I didn't understand until maybe just now, why sometimes the transliteration and the explanations in English are so different. Because if somebody interprets the Arabic wrong, the meaning, that's why, depending on what country they're from and how their Arabic dialect is, maybe that's why 5 of my Qur'ans all have the same kind of translation, but not the exact.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there are certain things that have multiple interpretations. And in the process of translating them, the translator only selects one of them, right? That happens all the time. So this is one of the whole purposes of us taking this course, is to cut out that middleman, is to cut out that barrier. If you understand the grammar, you understand, okay, qul, okay, is a command. Huwa is the mubtada. Allahu is also the mubtada by extension. Ahadun is the khabar, and that this is marfu' and it has to be marfu', and that's ma'rifa, and this is nakira, it has to be. You understand the meaning, and nobody can contradict you because the meaning is in the grammar, right? Good, excellent. So we've reached number 3. Someone from the Sheikh family, could you do number 3?
أين التاجر؟ هو في الدكان.
Excellent work. Aina, translate that for us while you're at it.
Where is the merchant? He is in the store.
Excellent. Just where he belongs, right? Shamsiya, yes. Both the ta and the dal are sun letters. So it's both Aina tajiru, which I believe was said, and huwa fid dukkan, which is why it has that nice little shadda there. So I missed it whether you said it as a sun letter or not, but just for clarification for everybody else, huwa fid dukkan. Excellent. Anybody else from the Sheikh family that's present would like to do number 4?
القلم على المكتب.
Excellent work. Translate that for us.
The pen is on the table.
MashaAllah. Excellent. And number 5, Masarrat, can you please do number 5?
أين زينب؟ هي في الغرفة.
Very good. And translate that for us.
Where is Zainab? She's in the room.
Fantastic. And just as our brother has notified us earlier, notice that Zainab has simply one dhamma and not tanween on the end of it, not 2 dhammas. We'll talk about that on the next page of the book. And number 6, I guess I'll do because we've run through all of our participants. أين الورق هو على المكتب. Where is the paper? It is on the desk. Very good. So you guys are doing a good job keeping track of everything. The first thing to keep track of is, okay, if we have alif lam, am I pronouncing the lam or not? Is it getting assimilated with the letter that comes after or not? And that's a function of whether it's a sun letter or a moon letter. As we said, is it close to the lam in pronunciation or no? Then the next thing you have to keep track of is, okay, how's that word going to end? In all of these examples, the mubtada, it's a simple mubtada. It's going to end with a dhamma, a single dhamma, because there's alif lam. And then the khabar is now, instead of just a single word, it is a prepositional phrase. And so we know that it's going to have to end with a kasra. Al-jami'ati fil masjidi fil dukkani ala al-maktabi fil ghurfati ala al-maktabi. And that is what we're going for. Very good. Oh, look, we've got more. Okay, so we've got 4 more exercises, and then we'll address the question of Zainab and Amina and why are they so different. So back to the Shahada family. Could you please do number 7?
أين المدرس؟
Oh, here's the answer to your question. Is it mudarras or mudarris?
Oh, hold on. مدرس.
Aywa. And what's
مدرس.
the
I'm sorry?
difference between mudarras and mudarris?
So the student and the teacher.
Yeah.
When they're talking about the teacher.
Right? So you see just a little bit of a different haraka and the meaning changes entirely. Excellent. So, okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
هو في الفصل.
Yeah.
فصل. I don't know what فصل is.
Fasl, classroom. In class, fasl is a classroom. Why? What does fasala mean? The root word fasala means to separate, right? ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْفَصْلِ, like Allah says in the Quran. That's the day of distinction, of separating the different groups into where they're going to belong, hell or heaven. Yes, we say munfasil, something that is separated, whether in tajweed or in pronouns in language. And so al-fasl is also in classical Arabic used as a unit of like a unit, like a separate classroom. Good. So translate that for us.
The teacher is in the classroom.
Excellent work. So where is the teacher? The teacher is in the classroom. Excellent. Okay. Somebody else from the Shahada family. You go ahead and do number 8.
أين ياسر؟ هو في المرحاض.
Yes. Very good. Al-mirhab is the toilet. Okay, so there's a difference between al-hammam and al-mirhab. So al-hammam, it could be a Turkish bath, right? It could be like that's the spa thing, depending on what part of the Arab world you're from. If you're in Sham, al-hammam is not a bathroom like we have. It's a Turkish bath, right? Whereas the actual word for the toilet itself is al-mirhab. Al-mirhab. So translate that for us.
Where is Yasser? He is in the toilet.
Very good. That's a literal translation. We probably wouldn't say in English that he's in the toilet because that brings up some funny imagery. But yes, he's gone to the toilet. He's gone to use the bathroom. Very good. Sheikh family, number 9.
Al-shamsu wal-qamaru fi samai.
Very good. Ash-shamsu, shamsiya, wal-qamaru, moon letter, fi samai. We have a palindrome. Sun letter, moon letter. Very good. So what is that?
The sun and the moon are in the sky.
Excellent. So that's a new word for us who haven't learned it before. As-sama is the sky, which should be familiar to anybody who's done a bit of Quran. Very good. Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru fi samai. Notice how we've done something to the mubtada here. We've gone from just having a mubtada that is one word to having 2 things in the mubtada. And we've connected them by the conjunction wa, which means and. So now we have ash-shamsu wal-qamaru fi samai. The sun and the moon are in the sky. And that should be a very, very easy, straightforward point. But it's an option. So now you're seeing how you're able to make more and more complicated sentences. And finally, number 10, masarrat, if you will.
من في الفصل من في الفصل.
Excellent work. How did you know, masarrat, how did you know that it was men and not min?
I don't know.
That's okay. Honesty is the best policy. I don't know is nisf al-ilm, is half of all knowledge. This was one of the brothers had this question on Wednesday. It's a fantastic question. How we can tell it's not min is simply because 2 prepositions cannot exist side by side. It wouldn't make sense. Min fil fasl, we're going to learn in just a few minutes what min means. It means from. So from in the class? No, that doesn't make any sense. These 2 prepositions don't come next to each other. Since it can't be another preposition, it has to be a question word. Man fil fasl. Who is in the classroom? Very good. Any questions about that before we go to something a little bit different?
I just want to confirm for number 8. Would we have said Aina Yasiru, like just al-Dhamma, not the Dhammatain?
No, Yasirun has.
We say Yasirun.
Yes, I believe Yasirun. I myself had to double check with it, but I'm probably 90% sure that it's Yasirun. In fact, I was looking up here and they have, where was it? They had an example in the beginning of the lesson. Yes, right here. Yasirun, right here. Aina yas. And that is actually a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about, which is we've noticed now that there's a difference between the way that we say masculine proper names, Muhammadun, and the way that we say feminine proper names, Aminatu. Okay, so I'm going to give you the very simple rule right now, and then I'm going to explain a little bit more of the finer details for those who are interested, and then we're going to learn, inshallah, 2 new prepositions. So the simple rule to take with you is that masculine names adhere to the default of a common noun in that they get tanween. They can have tanween. Muhammadun, Khalidun, Hamidun, Yasirun, Ammarun, Sa'idun, Aliyun, Abbasun. Whereas feminine proper names, Aminatu, Zainabu, Fatimatu, Maryamu, Aishatu, do not accept tanween. They do not accept tanween, which is why they're only written with 1 dhamma and not with 2. And the bridge is over masculine and feminine. That's the simple rule. That's what you are responsible to know. Safiyatu, Ruqayyatu, and that's the end of the examples. Okay? Does everybody understand that? Why does some women with the ha to the name turns to ta? You're asking about this letter, huh? This letter is a ta marbuta. What is a ta marbuta? I take here. This is one of the chapters in Ibn al-Jazri's poem on Tajweed. باب حاء التأنيث التي رسمت تاء. So if you have ta up here and you have ha down here, ha, this ta marbuta is literally half this and half that. Okay? And they did that for a reason. They gave you the dots from the smiley face. It goes from a smiley face to a surprised face. Right? It has the 2 dots for ta, but it has the circle of a ha. That is to tell you that if you're reciting it in the Quran, and also if you're doing it in common street talk, that if you stop on it, you don't pronounce it. Or I should say, you pronounce it as a ha. Whereas if you continue, you pronounce it as a ta. So nobody on the streets in an Arab-speaking place is going to say Aminatu. They're always going to say Amina, Fatima, Aisha, Khadija, right? However, what's the actual written ending of these words is a ta marbuta with a dhamma on top of it. And so if you were, for example, these names, if they were to happen in the Quran or if they happened in the Hadith and you're reading them, then you know that actually if you're continuing on, if we have, for example, Amina came, Aminatu ja'a, Aminatu ja'a, Amina came. We would pronounce it if there is something else to say after it. Okay, so it's similar but the opposite to the Hamzatul Wasl. Hamzatul Wasl, we only say it in the beginning. We don't say it if it's connected. Here with ta marbuta, if we're connecting to something else, we pronounce it as a ta. If we're stopping on it, we pronounce it as a ha. But for our purposes here, learning the grammar, we're going to pronounce it with its dhamma anyway, because that's where the grammar markers, the dhamma kasra, are always going to, or I should say the dhamma and the fatha, are always going to be. Okay? That's the basic rule. You're correct. If you, in this example, Aminatu ja, Yes, people would understand from the context. They would. Amina ja'a. Definitely. But if you said something more complicated, then it might cause ambiguity, right? Okay, if we really want to go into it, I could say, for example, Amina ضربت Fatima. Running out of space. Okay. Now, if I say Amina ضربت Fatima, what comes to your mind initially is that Amina hits Fatima. But in Arabic, it is permissible if I had said Amina ضربت Fatima too. But no, it was Amina that Fatima hit. Yeah, you can do that, 100%. And so if I leave it unpronounced, it creates ambiguity. There might be something that is understood because it's the usual way of saying it, but you could flip it around. This is a completely correct 100% Arabic sentence. And in fact, in certain circumstances, it's actually what you have to do. If someone's asking a question, who did, or هل آمنة ضربت فاطمة؟ نعم آمنة ضربت فاطمة. Right? Okay. So that's the basic easy rule. The easy way to explain it is that masculine names get the tanween, feminine names do not. In reality, something a little bit more complicated is going on. And this concept is called mamnu' min as-sarf. Mamnu' min as-sarf. Something that does not accept tanween. Sarf here, in this phrase, it means tanween. Okay? So, there are some nouns. I can get on to the next slide. Yes, that do not take all vowel endings, that do not take all diacritical marks. If we imagine in our minds right now, what are all the possibilities that could happen on the end of a letter? It could be dhamma, fatha, kasra. It could be two dhammas, right? Tanween, dhammatain. It could be two fathas. It could be two kasras. That's for a normal noun. There are some nouns that do not accept all of those vowel markings or diacritical marks. Okay? Alhamdulillah, they're very regular, meaning that it's not like random, one word is going to accept dhamma and never have kasra, and the other one is going to only accept fatha. No, it's not chaotic like that. It's regular. There is a class of words that's called mamnu' min as-sarf that do not accept tanween, and they do not accept kasra. Okay? They do not accept tanween, and they do not accept kasra. So, if we have these sentences and we have these feminine names in these sentences, we have to account for that in what we say in the sentence. So for example, which we did, we said aminatu fil bayti instead of aminatun, right? What happens if it would be majroor? Well, we'll get there. Let's not get there yet. Okay, so all you need to know is that there are some nouns, feminine names are part of them. They're not all of them, but they're part of them. They're one of the groups that does not accept tanween and it does not accept kasra. Yes, so a masculine proper noun will end in tanween, Muhammadun, whereas feminine proper nouns do not end in tanween. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are exceptions, but they are few. What's the whole purpose of those? The whole purpose is, in Arabic, the grammarians, they want to differentiate between nouns that resemble verbs, and we'll get there later. But if you're wondering, what, this thing is so random, why did they decide to randomly, have this group of words not adhere to the normal rules? It's to avoid resembling a verb. But we'll get there later. So we had prepositions, we learned prepositions, ala, fi, and these are mebni, meaning they're not going to change their endings for grammar. And today we're going to learn, oh Lord, there's only two more minutes left on class. Well, I'll introduce the concept and then give you guys the opportunity to practice. We'll learn two more. Ila, meaning to, like direction, going to the store, to the market, to the masjid. And min, the opposite, coming from the masjid. Min and, well, especially min, but also ila have several meanings beyond this. However, they are secondary meanings and not primary meanings. And so we'll not worry about them right now. So as an exercise to do at home, practice reading these names, identifying which ones are the masculine ones and which ones are the feminine ones, and pronouncing them accordingly. Hamidun Zainabu, Aminatu Ammarun, Sa'idun Fatimatu, just to get you used to that. And now we're learning these two new words, al-baytu min al-bayti. So we have the house and then from the house. Al-masjidu, the masjid, ila al-masjidi, to the masjidi. And that takes us to the end of our class time. So that means that next class, inshallah, we will run through this. We have like a conversation, so we'll practice doing the conversation. And we will be using our prepositions and learning a few new words, such as a couple countries, and also some other pronouns that we haven't seen before, inshallah. Does anybody have any questions at all before we depart? Meanwhile, okay, and everybody, I hope you saw, I sent out an email with some suggestions for vocabulary apps, very important. Try to look that over, inshallah, as well. And I hope that Allah helps each and every one of us and makes it easy for us. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.